Today's lesson is Petra, Jordan, the Lost City. Hi, everybody. My name is Roger.
And I'm Mike.
And today, Mike and myself are going to continue talking about Petra, Jordan, which is oftentimes referred to as the Lost City. And Petra is a must-see if you travel to Jordan or if you travel to the Middle East. If you're doing business, say, in Israel or Palestine or places like that, you might take a day or two off of your business schedule and go to neighboring Jordan and check out Petra. Last time we talked about some of the sites in Petra. The first one was the Treasury, right, Mike?
Yes, absolutely. The Treasury is the most famous building in Petra, and I'm sure most people have seen pictures of it. But we also visited the Street of Facades and saw some of the tombs where the rich and powerful of the ancient Nabatean city of Petra were buried. Very interesting stuff.
Indeed, so those are some of the sites that we've talked about in Petra so far, but there are still other things to check out there, so let's find out what those things are. Let's read the first part of our lesson for today, and then we will discuss it.
Past the royal tombs is the colonnaded street, which was once a bustling market area. At the end of the street, you can witness the Qasr al-Bint. One of the city's most well-preserved buildings, this temple is believed to have been an important religious center. Some scholarly authorities think it may have been built to worship the main Nabatean god Dushara.
大家好，第一部分我们可以看到单字 witness， 这个字是动词，指的是目睹、目击或是见证。例如 Millions of Americans witnessed the moon landing live on television. 数百万名美国人在电视上见证了月球登陆直播。或者 Since witnessing the birth of his daughter, Louis has been trying to make some positive changes to his life. 自从目睹女儿出生后 Louis 就一直努力在为他的生活做一些积极的改变。另外这个字也可以当名词，意思是目击者，像是Donna was a witness to the car accident, so she had to answer the police officer's questions. Donna 是这起车祸的目击证人，所以她得回答警察的问题。或是 The only witness to the crime disappeared before the trial began. 这起犯罪案唯一的目击者在审判前就消失了。接下来我们看到名词 authority， 它的意思是权威人士、专家或是当局、官方。举例来说Education authorities are reviewing the new plan. 教育当局正在检视新的计划。又或者说 The crime was reported to the authorities. 这桩犯罪已经向当局汇报。再来我们看到单字 worship， 这个字是动词，指的是敬奉神或是崇拜。例如 Ancient Romans worshipped many gods. 古罗马人信奉很多神祇。或是Local residents worship in the town's small church. 当地居民在镇上一座小教堂进行礼拜。
Okay, now remember last time we left off at the royal tombs, and again, as we said, there are still lots of things to check out in Petra. So past the royal tombs is the colonnaded street, which was once a bustling market area. Okay, if something's bustling, it has lots and lots of activity, lots and lots of people are there, they're making noise, they're buying things, they're selling things. Just like here in Taiwan, we have lots of traditional markets that are quite bustling. They are full of activity.
Absolutely, yeah. So this is a bustling market area in a bustling market hub. Remember, Petra was a hub, was sort of a meeting point on the Spice Road and the Silk Road that goes from east to west, from Asia to Europe. So you can imagine how bustling this market must have been a few hundred or a few thousand years ago, I should say, with traders from all over the world. It must have been quite an amazing place. At the end of the street, you can witness the Qasr al-Bint, one of the city's most well-preserved buildings. This temple is believed to have been an important religious center. All right, so after the treasury and the street of facades, we were in the colonnaded street, and we're going to visit the Qasr al-Bint. This is another building there in Petra, and it is a temple. It's believed to have been a very important temple that was a religious center. You definitely want to visit it. You can witness the Qasr al-Bint. When we witness something, we basically see it with our own eyes. eyes. We see it and experience it. You can sort of visit Petra by looking online, by watching videos made by people who are there, or documentaries that teach you the history, but you're not actually witnessing it. You're not there to see it with your own eyes, to breathe the air, to smell what smells like in that place, So you can only do that in person by actually physically being there and witnessing this place. And of course, the well-preserved buildings, that just means time has been very kind to these buildings. They haven't been damaged. They don't get a lot of rain there in the desert, right? So they don't have a lot of erosion from rain or wind, and cold and heat aren't a big problem since it's always hot. But anyways, so these buildings are well preserved. They don't look too different from what they would have looked like thousands of years ago.
And some scholarly authorities think it may have been built to worship the main Nabatean god Dushara. Okay, so of course we've got scholars there, people from universities who've studied this sort of thing, and they've gone there to do some research. And they, of course, are authorities because they know all about these things. An authority, of course, is someone knows a lot about something, but it also could be someone who is in charge of something, like the police. If you don't leave my house right now, I'm going to call the proper authorities. I'm going to call the police, basically, is what that means. But in this particular case, these are experts in the educational community, and they think that, hey, this place, this well-preserved building, must have been a temple dedicated to the Nabatean god Dushara. They base this on other research that they have done.
Yes, absolutely. So we're going to learn more about the city of Petra, and we're going to actually check out some of the other areas around the city of Petra. It's not just there in the main central area. There are many other things to look at. So we're going to find out more about those places in the next paragraph.
For a truly grand finale, make your way to the monastery. The trek up to this 2,000-year-old monument is no walk in the park, as it's located high in the hills with 800 steps cut into the rocks leading up to it. However, it's worth the climb to see this impressive structure. The 47-meter-tall monastery is the tallest building in Petra and boasts several immense columns and a huge door leading to a single empty room inside. Thought to have been dedicated to the Nabatean king Obadas II, it may also have been used later by Christian monks as a monastery.
第二部分我们看到单字 monument， 这个字是名词，意思是遗址或是纪念碑。例如 The Monet Museum is a monument to the artist's contributions to the world of art. 这个莫内博物馆是用来纪念这位艺术家对于艺术世界的贡献。或是The Statue of Liberty is one of America's most famous monuments. 自由女神像是美国最闻名的纪念建物之一。
Okay, so let's continue talking about our tour of Petra. We've seen a number of sites at Petra, and now we have the grand finale, which is the last thing you're going to see, and that, of course, means it's probably the most spectacular thing to see. The grand finale often refers to the final thing that's really, really great, and it's probably the greatest thing. Maybe in a concert or something, the grand finale would be when the orchestra plays their most famous piece or something like that. That would be the grand finale, and people will go nuts with applause. And in this particular case, if you want to see that grand finale, the best thing at the end, make your way to the monastery. A monastery, of course, is a religious center where people go to study in private. Of course, here in Taiwan, there are numerous Buddhist monasteries, but also in Europe, there are many monasteries as well where people go to study the Christian religion.
Absolutely. And in a monastery, we can expect to find monks, these religious brothers living a life of holiness while dedicating their activities and their work towards studying and worshiping gods of whatever type. And it says the trek up to this 2,000-year-old monument is no walk in the park, as it's located high in the hills with 800 steps cut into the rocks leading up to it. Wow. So you need a comfortable pair of shoes and a strong pair of legs if you're going to be making the trek up to this monastery, but it might well be worth it. Although it is no walk in the park, that means it's not easy. A walk in the park, of course, is easy. Even if you're tired, you could take a walk in the park. But if we say something either physical or something else, learning Japanese in 3 months will be no walk in the park. We're basically saying it's going to be difficult and challenging and not easy by any means. And that's how we're describing this trek. A trek is a long walk, kind of like a hike. A hike and a trek aren't too different. The idea, of course, would be that you're getting outside, you're going to be walking, using your legs a lot, and probably walking over terrain that's not super smooth and easy. A hike or a trek is not something you take along flat city streets. It's the kind of thing you take up in the mountains on a rocky path. And you're going up, you're going down, you might even be climbing a little bit. It will definitely be a more physically challenging walk, but often out in a spectacular environment. And here, we're taking this trek up to a very old monument. A monument is something that has probably been built a long time ago, although we could have modern monuments. But basically, it's been built to remember an important event or moment or person from history. We can have monuments to honor the people who have died in wars, monuments to honor people who were killed in a disaster, monuments to honor heroes, presidents, sporting heroes. You might have a monument to a famous athlete in front of the stadium they played at or something like that. But it's something that's been built as part of the culture to honor and remember things from the past.
Indeed. So this trek, of course, is no walk in the park. It's no picnic, we could also say, because it is quite a long walk or a long trek. And, of course, it's located high in the hills, and it's got 800 steps cut into the rocks which lead up to it. So here we've got the phrase to lead to something or to lead up to something. I could say this highway leads to Geelong, so stay on it and you'll be okay if you're going to Geelong. But because this place is higher than where you start, we're adding the word up for emphasis. It leads up to the monument, which is located high in the hills. However, it's worth the climb to see this impressive structure. So, of course, it's worth it. It's worth the effort. You will not regret it because it is an impressive structure. It's spectacular. It's marvelous. It's awesome. It's really, really cool. And the 47-meter tall monastery is the tallest building in Petra and boasts several immense columns and a huge door leading to a single empty room inside. So this sentence here describes the monastery. First of all, it is a tall building. It's a 47-meter tall monastery. It's the tallest building in Petra, and it has these immense columns. If something has something that is really special and it could actually brag about that thing, hey, look at this thing I've got. Aren't you impressed? Aren't I wonderful? Well, then we use the word boast. This building boasts several immense columns. It has these columns that are really, really big, and of course, Petra can be very proud of those columns.
Yes, they definitely can. And then we can also read that they are immense columns, immense being very large. Of course, so that's something we would expect to see. If they're 47 meters tall, or at least the building that they're helping to support is 47 meters tall, of course, you will need to have immense columns, very large columns. And then we also talked about a huge door leading to a single empty room inside. If something leads to something, basically you have to walk along that or follow it to get from one place to another. A hallway will lead to a different part of the building in the same way that a stairway might lead from the first floor up to the second floor or something like that. Now let's learn about this impressive building. It says thought to have been dedicated to the Nabatean king Obodas II. It may also have been used later by Christian monks as a monastery. I guess it makes sense that an area this old, a place this old, some of the buildings might have been used for different reasons over the times. The building was first dedicated to a Nabatean king. That's when it was built. When we dedicate something, we basically say we did this to honor this person. A dedication, would be the noun form, is something you might read maybe in the first few pages of a book. When you open the book, the author might write, to my mom, or to, my best friend, or to a favorite teacher or something. They're not really saying I wrote the book for that person, but I want to honor that person by just sort of mentioning their name or something like that. In the same way that an actor or a musician, if they get an award at, one of those big events, they'll say, oh, I dedicate this to my parents who supported me and my manager who's always been there for me and my, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever. You're kind of saying, I want to remember, respect, honor those people by doing something. And in this case, you're respecting and honoring them by writing their name on a building. But later on, maybe hundreds or even thousands of years later, it was used by Christian monks as a monastery. So it kind of had a whole other life. And we're going to learn more about Petra as we wrap up our article in the next paragraph.
Walking through the red rock monuments of Petra is an experience like no other. While it may be known as the Lost City, Petra is never forgotten by those who visit it.
最后第3部分我们看到片语 like no other 指的是与众不同或是独一无二。例如 Every dish served in this restaurant is like no other you've ever tasted before. 这家餐厅的每道菜都不同于你以前尝过的菜。或者我们可以说 It was a concert like no other, as thousands of fans packed the outdoor arena to see the band's last ever show. 这是一场绝无仅有的演唱会，成千上万名粉丝挤满户外场馆，欣赏这个乐团的最后一场演出。
Okay, let's wrap things up now with the final paragraph. Here we're wrapping things up by saying, walking through the red rock monuments of Petra is an experience like no other. So again, we're summarizing our visit to Petra here in more general language. Yes, indeed, you're walking through these monuments, you're taking hikes, you're going on treks, you're going to check out all these different sites there. So it's going to be a really awesome and unique and special experience. That's why we say it's an experience like no other. It is not like any other experience you'll have in your life. Once you travel to Petra, no place will seem as good.
I think that's probably true. Yeah, I think that is something I could definitely agree with, and that's why it's a place that is on the bucket list of many, many travelers. It's somewhere a lot of people would definitely like to visit before they get too old to, have adventures like this. I know it's a very popular place. So do your research. I don't think you'd want to arrive there in the middle of the day with hundreds or thousands of other tourists. It might involve getting up really early in the morning or picking the not so popular times. But I think experiencing Petra in any way is something most people would really love to do and would feel very wise about doing because it is such an interesting location in the world.
Indeed, and the final sentence here says, while it may be known as the Lost City, Petra is never forgotten by those who visit it. So even though it is called the Lost City, it is certainly not lost nowadays. People know where it is, and lots of people go there, and they're going to remember it for the rest of their lives. Okay, that brings us to the end of our explanation for today. Let's turn things over now to Hanny.
Hello, 各位同学大家好，我是 Hanny。 我们来看今天的文法重点。课文第一部分有一个句子写到 This temple is believed to have been an important religious center. 这座寺庙被认为是一个重要的宗教中心。这边我们先复习一下主词 be thought 或是 be believed to 加上原形动词是表达某人或某事物被认为是怎么样怎么样，那可以用来表达一般认为是怎么样，据信是怎么样怎么样。举例来说 The castle is thought to be over 800 years old. 一般认为那座城堡有超过800年的历史。那特别注意，当这个句型当中不定词所描述的动作事情时间发生的比主要子句还早，那这个不定词 to be 呢，我们是要把它改成不定词完成式，变成 to have 加过去分词 pp。举例来说 The castle is thought to have been built in the 12th century. 一般认为那座城堡建于12世纪，那教堂被建造是发生在过去，比人们所认为的那个动作呢发生的更早，所以我们是用 to have been built 而不是用 to be built。 好，那我们再看看课文的句子，他说 This temple is believed to have been an important religious center。 其中 believed 后面我们看到它是用不定词完成式 to have been 而不是用 to be， 那就表示说一般认为啊，这间寺庙在过去呢是一个重要的宗教中心。好，补充一下呢，我们也可以用 people think 或是 people believe 去加 that 子句，或者是用 it is thought 或是 it is believed 去加 that 子句，用这些句型去表达一般认为句性怎么样怎么样。所以如果我们用这样的句型去改写课文句子，可以写作 People believe that the temple was an important religious center， 或者是 It is believed that the temple was an important religious center。 注意 that 子句我们是用过去式动词 was 去描述它是过去的状态。好，接着读到课文第二部分的第一句，最后压轴的话就前往修道院，文中是用 make your way to the monastery 来表达前往修道院。那片语 make one's way 就是指说前进啊，前往，后面可以接表示方向地点的副词，像 make one's way home 就是表达回家嘛。那 make one's way 后面呢也可以接 to toward through 或是 into 等等去接地方。例如Matt got his tray of food and made his way to an empty table. Matt 拿了一盘食物并走向一张空桌。好，再来这个片语呢，其实还可以用来比喻说一路顺遂发展。Make one's way in something 表示在某方面呢靠自己获得了成功。举例来说 Samantha is making her way in the fashion industry. Samantha 在时尚界逐渐有所成就。好，以上是今天重点整理，我们回顾今天的单字吧。
Witness. No one witnessed the crime, so there were no obvious suspects. Authority.Due to his long study of Taiwanese music, Eric was considered an authority on the subject. Worship. Many ancient cultures worship the sun for its life-giving qualities. Monument. Stonehenge is among the most famous monuments in England. Immense. It is said that Jupiter's moon Europa has an immense ocean hidden beneath its frozen crust. Dedicate.The song was dedicated to the man's dead wife.
Discussion starter starts now!
Here's our discussion starter for today, and the question is, imagine that you're going to spend a weekend in Petra. What would your ideal travel plan look like?
First, I would visit the treasury. I think try to get there early in the morning, maybe, when the sunlight is just right to give it the most magical color. And as I mentioned, the rocks sort of turn this pink color. It's quite amazing. Then, if I had the energy, I'd like to climb up those 800 steps to that monastery. And finally, maybe I'd sit in front of the treasury trying to figure out where the pharaohs hid all their gold.
Interesting. Well, I'd like to spend most of the weekend in that one big room. It might be really cool to sit in there and just imagine what happened to people in the past. But of course, it will get boring after a while just sitting there in the room for several hours. So I'd also like to visit some of those other places, those facades. Those sound pretty cool. And I'd love to check out those really tall columns as well.
Well, that brings us to the end of another edition of our program, and please make sure you join us again next time. From all of us here, I am Mike.
I am Roger. See you next time.